Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Pagey, here with another American Horror Story hotel review, and this is episode 2 entitled Chutes and Ladders. Now, I just want a quick question. There will be spoilers in this review, just a heads up if you have not seen the episode, but I just want to ask a question to people that have been watching American Horror Story. Are these episodes going to continue being like this extended? Because the first 2 episodes have been like over an hour, like an hour and a half, so I was wondering, are they continuing like that, or are they going back to like the regular, like 50-minute, 45-minute episodes like after this one? Just a question. So a lot happened in this episode. I was actually really surprised. Now it starts off with like Iris essentially just dumping the body of the second Swedish chick. Honestly, I think I mentioned in my review for the last episode, I thought they'd just forgotten about her, but we get reintroduced to her and then she gets chucked down that chute. And below that there was like the other Swedish girl and like that diseased, like ridden corpse that came out of, well, not corpse, but that body that came out of the mattress, out of their room, and they were down there. And I'm wondering, at the beginning of the episode, I was wondering if there was anything else down there, but it just seems like it goes with the trend of the hotel, which we will get into. We then see Elizabeth, or the Countess, whatever you want to call her, and Donovan drinking this blood, but the blood was taken from the vampire children. I'm just going to call them that, the vampire children, but they had drunk from the second Swedish girl before, so I don't know if that's like, there's some form of like middle ground or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe they test whether the blood is good enough for the Countess and Donovan to drink. That's the only thing that I could assume, because why wouldn't they just drink directly from those bodies? So that must be why, like they test the blood to see if it's worth drinking. That's the only thing I can think of, and then they take the blood from the vampire children to drink themselves. Now John Lowe has a bit of an interesting episode. It starts off with him having these like weird dreams and nightmares, like dreams within dreams. Like he has a weird dream, wakes up, and then he's in another dream. So sort of like dreamception or inception, whatever you want to call it, for him at the beginning of this episode. But he also sees Holden, which he thinks is another dream as well. Now when John actually goes back to work, he finds out that the people that we see in the beginning of the first episode, you know, the guy that got his like eyes cut out and his tongue cut off and stuff like that, those two were brought together by not them texting each other, but another person texting each of them to meet them in this hotel room. Who else did that? The dude that contacted John from his wife's phone, telling him to go to that house where he found the 2 gutted twins hanging up. So now he knows that the man that's tormenting him, that took Holden and was attempting to take other people and like threatening him, is the killer that he's been following. Meanwhile at the Hotel Cortez, it's holding this like fashion show due to Will Drake being the new owner. He's like a fashion dude, and he holds this like a fashion show. This is where we meet Claudia, who's played by Naomi Campbell, and she's going to be staying in that hotel, but they really don't follow that up, which I thought was a bit weird, unless she was coming back to stay there later on. I don't know, she'll probably be in the next episode, you'd think. And we also meet Tristan, who's played by Finn Wittrock, who played like Dandy in Freak Show. So during the fashion show, obviously we have Lachlan, who's Will Drake's son, and we also have Scarlett, who is John Lowe's daughter, and obviously they're getting a bit bored because it's a fashion show, so Lachlan takes Scarlett down to the swimming pool, and I was like, okay, I wonder what's down here. And down here is actually where we find the vampire children actually sleeping, and Scarlett actually recognises Holden, and this follows on for a bit in this episode. So after the fashion show, Tristan breaks into Elizabeth and Donovan's room, like looking for drugs, but eventually gets caught by Donovan. Donovan's actually going to kill him, but then the Countess actually saves him, and upon leaving, Tristan gets like held up or stuck in this elevator on this particular floor. Gets caught out, once again goes into a different room looking for drugs and just stealing random crap, and he actually meets Mr. March. Now at this point we didn't know who Mr. March was. Now Mr. March had this like his neck slit, and I thought like you don't notice that until he takes off his tie or something like that, so you realise he's a ghost at that point. But essentially Mr. March kills someone, and Tristan freaks out, runs away, and Elizabeth takes him, and then that scene sort of cuts. But then it goes straight to Scarlett, who's on this bus, and she's actually heading to the hotel. Now upon the hotel, she goes back down to that swimming pool to look at the coffins again, maybe hoping that the children are there again. But essentially she finds that games room that we saw in episode 1 where we initially see Holden. And Holden is actually in there by himself, and she takes a photo with him, but just after she takes that photo, Holden actually attempts to bite her on the neck. So she freaks out, goes home, but doesn't really keep her mind on that too much. I think she's just happy that she found her little brother. Now Scarlett actually goes back home and shows this, tells her dad and her mum about it, and they like don't believe her, and John actually yells at her and stuff like that. And he actually looks at the picture on her phone, and it's got her clear, but Holden's sort of shaking. But I think he can tell because he did see that vision of like Holden in the hallway, so I think he knows that Holden is somewhere in that hotel. We cut back to the hotel where Tristan has actually been turned into a vampire. I don't think they're calling themselves vampires, they are vampires, because he's sort of making like vampire like cliches, if you know what I mean. So he's turned into a vampire by Elizabeth, and he's basically given these rules where one of them is like don't drink from the dead, avoid diseased blood, like similar blood like that, like really like it might be diabetics, you know what I mean. Sunlight can't kill you, but it's safe if you stay out of it. So I don't know if that, I think it's something to do with like it saps your vitality. I think those are the words she used. And we actually learned some more stuff about Elizabeth following this. We actually learned that she was born in 1904, so she's over 100 years old. And due to the fact that Tristan has been turned into a vampire and is on Elizabeth's side, like Elizabeth likes Tristan more, she actually kicks Donovan out, but we don't see Donovan after that, so I'm assuming we'll see more about what happens to him next episode. And this is where probably my favourite bit of the episode, because this took up a large chunk of the episode, and it's when John goes to the hotel to like sort of arrest Iris, so she'll give him information about how her daughter was allowed to walk around the hotel without anyone noticing and got her in danger, and how no one notified him that she was running around by herself. And Iris explains the history of the hotel and about Mr. March, who we met earlier in the episode. So we learned that the Cortez was actually built in 1925 by Mr. March, and that Mr. March built the hotel to suit his own sadistic needs, which included like secret chutes, which we saw at the beginning of the episode, where Iris was putting the bodies down to dispose of bodies, obviously, and also hallways with no exits, which we've actually seen an example of already. It is mentioned that he actually had a wife, which I'm 99% sure was Elizabeth or the Countess, because it makes sense how she ended up in the hotel, if you know what I mean. And you see the back of her head, which is blonde, and it sort of looks like Lady Gaga and or Elizabeth, whatever you want to call her, and it sounds a bit like her as well. So Mr. March does all these killings, like you see a lot of his murders and stuff like that. Some of them are really weird, like him having sex with someone just like slashing at their chest while he's doing that. But he also commits a murder where he basically dumps all these bodies out, sort of like near a vineyard or something like that. And he actually leaves one of his handkerchiefs in one of the bodies' mouths or something like that, which traces the police back to the hotel. And before he's caught, he actually kills Miss Evers by shooting her in the head, and then he slits his own throat with this like sort of like a machete or something, which explains why he has that slit neck when Tristan meets him the first time. And all the connections start to happen as well, because we learn that room 64, which we've been seeing all the time, is actually Mr. March's office, and we find out that that's like the heart of the hotel, so it's like the heart of the darkness. Now, following this story from Iris, John actually makes the connections that the recent murders that have been happening are continuing on for Mr. March's murders that happened all the way back in the 20s. So the real question is Mr. March continuing his continuing his spree, as the 10 Commandments killer, or because you got to remember, in that scene in episode 1, the person that was standing in front of John in that house was wearing like a tuxedo and had a cane. I'm pretty sure, at least had like the hat, if you know what I mean, that Mr. March wore. So is he there, or is someone just interpreting the way Mr. March looked and just continuing what he did? It's going to be really interesting to find out, and I cannot wait. And the last thing we see in this episode is actually Tristan using, I think it was Grinder, I'm going to assume it's Grinder, to lure people in so he can kill them and drink their blood. So good use of modern technology there, I guess. So overall, I give this episode about a 4.3 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of content in it. I really hope these episodes continue to be like an hour and a half roughly, because they'll probably drop down to under an hour, like the 45, 50 minute areas. But I'm really enjoying this American Story Hotel. I saw a lot of negative feedback for episode 1, especially like the rape scene with the addiction demon and stuff like that. American Horror Stories had worse. In season 2, there was a rape scene with Lana Winters as well. So I don't see how people can complain about this season, but not about that season. So I think people are just finding reasons to complain, literally just to complain. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, leave any comments on what you thought on the episode, and subscribe if you're new for more American Horror Story. And I'll catch you later. Goodbye.